You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
You know we mean business when we're doing a special Saturday edition of Leafs Morning Take from the rink here at Canadian Tire Center. Nick Alberga with you alongside Carter Hutton on location at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, presented by Bet365. It is the Saturday edition of Leafs Morning Take, and I won't lie, Huts, I got caught at the door with my broom, so I couldn't bring it into this building today.
I love it. I love it, buddy. It's that time of year, and things are going well so far, buddy. I love it. I'm just glad you're not staying at the Brook Street. When you said you're in Canada, I was like, where are you staying? I had to know, because there's always a running joke playing in the league, like going to Ottawa, you're staying at the Brook Street. It's just comparatively in the hotel world of the NHL, nobody wants to be there.
Huts, I plead the fifth. I've had a great time here in Canada. We'd like to thank the Ottawa Senators, their amazing PR staff for their hospitality, namely Ian Mendez, who was on the sheet the other day, and Aaron Campbell. It's been great. We're tucked away here in the arena, having a great time, obviously bringing this to you the last couple of days. So really appreciative of that, but certainly very, very tight series. There was something I wanted to ask you off the top before we get into the minutia here of Game 4. So last night, obviously, I had to take a peek. You know, it was a quiet night for once. It's been a go type situation the last couple of days here. So we decided to take a peek, Nick Goalie and I. And so we end up at a spot, a bar. I've never seen this, dude. I'm 35 years old. Paid off the bouncer. What are your thoughts on two grown-ass men paying off bouncers, mid-30s, we'll say?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm against it, buddy. I don't know. I've been in situations where you're trying to get in somewhere. We're in a big city. Guys would pull out their NHL card to get in. It's just cringeworthy. I don't know. I don't think that's a look for me. You guys, was it that busy? Like,
dude,
you're talking.
Don't get me started, because I'm pretty connected. We both are. You know, I dropped a couple names at the door. This guy looked at me like I was from fucking Mars. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. Like, these are like legit names that people would know in this market who I know, and nothing. And it was pretty much like, yeah, you'll get in like soon enough. And I'm like trying to like intimate that like I want to come in right away. But next thing you know, I go back in line and I get the pullover from Nick Goalie saying, hey, we're headed in. And I said, okay, but I needed a National Leaguer's opinion on this whole thing, because I was not very pleased with how that went down for us last night.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess I'm a little removed from it, buddy, but I do remember that. I remember that in Nashville, some nights after the game, the lineups would be down the street and guys would be at the front greasing guys to get in, and the scene. But I don't know, looking back on it now and your age and where you're at, buddy, I don't know. Just go find a spot where you can sit and have a conversation, enjoy a beer. The being in the clubs, I remember my last couple of years in Arizona going out to Bottled Blonde and a few of those other places.
Spot.
You got to plug your ear. What? Yeah, I can't hear you. I think those times have come and gone for me, Nicky.
Yeah, you know me, I'm still all around it, but I have not greased the bouncer, and I'm not taking accountability for this. I didn't specifically grease the bouncer. Maybe somebody who's in the periphery of me here did grease the bouncer. I did not, but I needed your opinion. It means a lot to me here on this podcast. But nevertheless, I had a good time. It's good on the road for team building, first and foremost, to have a couple cocktails. We had a good dinner last night, but I just needed your perspective on that. How all that went down was a little greasy to me. I would never pull that stunt on King Street West. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, not on your own turf, eh? I love it though. But I'm with you, man. The getting together, like I think about our Nashville trip and getting to, have a few drinks and get to know each other more and more. The whole group, it's awesome, and I love it. And this best time of year, man. The sun is shining and it's playoff hockey, baby. And you guys are greasing bouncers. You got it all going on.
Yeah, we've had everything covered here. At least want to take on the road on location at Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa. I should mention as well, our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. Devlin Foyston, thank you so much for the Super Chat in support, once again, of Sick Kids. Go Leafs, go. This team looks so different from years past. Big boys stepping up in the right moments, defense playing a tight checking game, and goaltending has been solid. Yeah, speaking of which, we got a former NHL goalie on today's podcast. What have you thought of Anthony Stolarz' play in this series, Huts?
Same as I thought all year, buddy. He's been steady. He's been rock solid. He's been really good. And I think just the confidence in the group, right? Again, you look at game one, and I thought a little bit of nerves, just rebound control, things bouncing a bit on him. But again, timely saves where when I look back to these last few years, whether it was Freddie Anderson, whether it was Jack Campbell, whether it was the run of Eli Samsonov waiting for a bad goal to go in, that just demoralizes the group. And you're not getting that right now. He's making timely saves, big saves. And again, I always say this, it's not necessarily how many saves you make, it's when you make them during a game and the momentum swings that it has. And he's just been a presence. And again, the whole drama with him, he is a guy that looks like he feeds off of this stuff, right? And I've always made this point to certain players, like, let him sleep. Like, this is a goalie you don't want getting physical. You don't want being in the game because it seems like it brings out the best in him. And it's been fun to watch, you know, for a guy that was touted as a backup, right? Like, no one really thought he was going to come in and do this. This has been very impressive, and kudos to him because he's been that staple in this lineup so far all year.
Yeah, the soft coal I call the Ilya Samsonov, but Stoli has been so tremendous, so magic. And again, I was ripping on Leafs fans a bit for chirping him on the Brady Tkachuk goal the other night. Like, the guy is human, don't forget that, and the numbers speak for themselves in the last 11. We'll go over that. How about the other end of the ice? Like, I'm curious to get your opinion. People have weighed in, you know, talking to a lot of different people here at the arena as well. Hey, we're a couple shots away, dude. I see a score line of 3-0 Leafs in this series. I couldn't care about a couple shots away, but what's been your read on Linus Ullmark, the series in general?
You know, it's so fragile, right? Like, again, I don't want to totally bury Linus Ullmark here. He's a good friend and a really good goalie. But that being said, like, you have to make saves. You have to be very good. You have to be a difference maker, especially as an underdog in a series where, you know, it is so fragile. I thought they played very well in these games. But again, game one, game two for me was one where he was so locked in. Everything got around him. And what I mean by that is when we talk about being on our edges, we have to be able to be patient and shift into pucks. Where you look at the William Nylander feed backdoor to Morgan Rielly, he's down on his knee and Nylander is still out on the hash marks on the half wall, right? So this is just like too predictable hockey. The game travels too fast east-west. And even on the game winner, I know Benoit drives the net, but he's not competing to find that puck. And again, he's down early on the Benoit winner in overtime where, you know, after the Max Domi overtime one, when you got to fight to find pucks, there's traffic. Matthews goes to the net. Nyes is there. This is when I watch Stolarz, I see him more competing and holding his feet a little bit longer where you're going to have time to cover on the ice. And so that's a little bit disappointing, I think, from that end because things are so fragile right now. It's a fine line between winning and losing when your team's going overtime every night, Nicky.
Oh, definitely. And I call the margin for error so thin this time of year. Like, even for example, I like to bring this up, 1 for 21 on the power play last year against the Boston Bruins. You score a couple more, you probably win that series. And we're not talking about another first-round failure against the Boston Bruins. I mean, there's been a variety of different reasons why the Maple Leafs up 3-0 in this series. Nevertheless, make sure you head on over to nationgear.ca right now. Huts, the Now We Go campaign is fire. Bleeding blue last year. Now we go this year. But a winning record so far with the new tarps. What do you think of them, bud?
I love it. I think it's great. It's a good saying. It's modern. It's red on the button. And it is time to go, baby. And that's what I'm talking about, Nick. Like, what I love about this, and even the super chat comment is like, it feels different because it's been different all year, right? Now They're not trying to turn on a switch and play playoff hockey. Craig Berube has been grooming these guys all year on getting them to understand that they need to play direct. They need to play the East-West and 6-5 and off the rush isn't sustainable in the playoffs. So I love it. And you look at this where we think about the big boys and maybe hurting their production. It hasn't. You look at the leading scorer, Mitch Marner. He's got the most points. Austin Matthews right there. Tavares, Nylander. Everybody's in the mix right now. And again, we shit on Morgan Rielly a lot this year. Everybody has. Mm-hmm. He's been pretty solid. You know, now that you have a healthy decor and he's slotted in a little better situation, I love the way it's going. And Craig Berube has these guys already playing that way all year.
Playoff Mo, we like to call him here at Leafs Morning Take. Zach Phillips writes in, rumor is producer Vic is going tarps off on the show today. If we get 16K subs, folks, we're so close. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button at the Leafs Nation 401, Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com, doing an exceptional job of covering this series in general. The Battle of Ontario, Game 4, but should reference as well special guests coming on location. You're only going to be with me for the next 20 minutes or so, breaking things down. And then we're going to make way for Kyle Bukauskas, my one-on-one with Kyle Bukauskas. This could be my big break in my career, Huts.
That's it. This is it. Maybe your big breakthrough here. He likes what you're doing.
I'm going to do 15 minutes about Kyle's hair. That's it. We're going to break down his day-to-day operation.
Jam he got on it. That I would like to know what kind of product, because that thing does not move. It is immovable, but I love it, buddy. I'm going back to the bleachers after. I'll be watching from the outside, and the tarps off for Vic. I was trying to get Jay to call in, maybe tarps off, but we were worried what kind of message that might send to our viewers. What kind of podcast is this?
Well, if you watch the Leafs Nation After Dark the other night, you know what kind of message now we go. It's a company brand. That's all I can say on that front. But were you the goalie? Like, what was your routine when you were a backup? Ball cap? Did you wear the towel over the neck? Like, what was your routine like?
Yeah, no towel. I was not a towel guy. I don't know why that just look never sat well with me. It just seemed like you weren't even engaged in it. I was just a ball cap, but I was like the light guy, man. I had tons of fun in the room. I always had like different handshakes or things with the teammates, just trying to do whatever I could to be involved in. And I was super selfless. Like, I remember sometimes during the playoffs, for me, instant memory I think of is we were playing in Minnesota with St. Louis. That was the year Bruce Boudreau was there, and they were heavy favorites, and they outplayed the hell out of us. And Jake Allen was unbelievable. I remember in between periods with a blow dryer, like drying his skates. Like, I was just all team first, whatever I needed to do. And I think that's important when you have a big group, right? I think I was always ready to go, and I would, prepared to play. But in the same sense, whatever the team needed, you try to buy into that.
And Hutz, that's a big thing I've noticed is just the level of professionalism that the Maple Leafs have brought to these Stanley Cup playoffs. Not to say in previous seasons they haven't, but even watching the morning skate, I had a chance to watch for a couple minutes. Just very focused, very vocal, which you like to see, having a good time, but focused on the game. Like, they look dialed in. And even, reading in between the lines, guys talking game by game, post game, pre-game, very focused and driven, man. It's like the mentality is all the same for everybody, whether they're a healthy scratch, a sixth defenseman, or the number one goalie. Great to see.
It is huge, right? And I think back to my time with the 2013 Blackhawks, where I was the third guy. And I remember we won the Stanley Cup, and I'm on the ice in Boston, and I'm a deer in the headlights, right? It's really cool. And then we're in the dressing room, they're spraying beers and champagne, and we're just sitting there, the three extras, right? We're like, we don't really feel like we won. And I remember that moment where Jonathan Toews came over to us after with the Stanley Cup, and he was like, you guys are just as much a part of this as we are, right? And again, even to this day, I don't feel like I necessarily helped win that Stanley Cup, but that's the kind of leadership and that's the kind of core that you want to see in a team that's going to win, right? You look at last night in that Washington-Montreal game, both goalies go down, both starting goalies. You need everybody during a playoff run, and everybody knows it's a war of attrition. So whether you're in the lineup or out of the lineup, at some point, there's going to be injuries, there's going to be changes, and you need everybody to buy in for the group and what is going to help this team get over the hump.
I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about that, but I'm going to go another you goalies rant. Can't stay healthy. Can't fucking play. Dude, it drove me insane after the game. Who's first in the DAP-up line? It's Samuel Montembeault. I thought you're hurt.
Yeah.
You're hurt, but you're propsing your team after the game. Like, it's a goalie thing in this league, man. These guys can't stay in the crease. And again, I'm from a different vintage. So are you. I watch Marty Brodeur every game. I know he's coming out, Patty Waugh, etc. These guys can't stay in the crease. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs, man. Battle through it. And I just hate the extracurriculars, and maybe he's really hurt. Logan Thompson, like, hobbling off and needs the help of his teammates. Like, it's just a different era, Hutz. It drives me insane, man.
Yeah, the Logan Thompson one looked bad. It looked like it was his knee, and he got, like, the way he got up after. But I agree, you need to be durable. And I remember having this conversation one time. We were playing in Tampa Bay. We had just played Florida, and Linus Ullmark was supposed to start. He was kind of at a point where he was starting to steal the crease from me. He was playing really well. And I remember having this conversation with Andrew Allen, our goalie coach at the time. And he was like, Linus couldn't make a decision if he was able to play or not. And this was during pregame skate. And I was in the other end, like, fuck, I'll play. Like, let me play. I'll play every game. Anytime I could get a lick or a game, because I had been on the other side of it where I wasn't a silver spooner. I didn't have the contract, and I was just trying to get my way through. So I think that has changed a little bit. My worry with Sam Montembeault is, like, when I look at him, he looks like an absolute milk bag. Like, he looks like a chubby kid. Like, he just doesn't. And now the wear and tear of a playoff run, and it looked like a nothing play that he got hurt on. I watched the video again where he got hurt, and that's something this time of year, it just can't happen. I get the contact play on Logan Thompson because it is, like, looks like his leg gets caught when Strome buries him. But, like, if it's wear and tear this time of year, like, I struggle with that because that stuff's got to be taken care of off the rink.
I get it. Like, who am I to criticize? I'm just some random broadcast with an ugly face that doesn't really know much about hockey. But dude, fucking just get in there and play. And again, maybe it's our vintage. We grew up in an era where guys would play through ruptured spleens and just go to war in the playoffs. And then, like, I used to love that day after a season concluded for a team, and they would put out like the release of injuries. And that's the thing that pissed me off about the Leafs in the past. There would never be an injury release because nobody was injured. You're not blocking shots, right? Like it's just night and day, and it just ticks me off watching that game last night. But certainly a different aspect to look at. And I thought the e-bug for Montreal, I won't lie, I thought that was producer Vic. I thought producer Vic had made his way down to the Belle Province. This guy was a clone of producer Vic, man. They got like a random plumber. I don't know who the fuck this guy was. Like Claudio, we'll just name him. And he was the backup. We got to do something about this e-bug situation.
I agree. It's embarrassing. You have this like $1 billion business in league.
Like, where do they find this guy?
Maybe Vic was in there. He was going to go in and throw the game there, get the Habs out of the playoffs.
I hope he, yeah.
I did love the injury report. I always remember Patrice Bergeron. It would always be like, I remember that one year was like ruptured lung, broken rib, torn this, torn that. And the guy was like playing every single night. Those are the players you want. Those are guys that are the best leaders.
I would still love to know what the hell was going on with the Leafs last year. We'll never find out. I just know Joe Wall didn't show up for Game 7. Austin Matthews missed a majority of games in that series, or a big chunk of games. It's just a different time. But yeah, I had to bring that up. It's like my Don Cherry comment to you goalies, not you people. It's you goalies, because and specifically with you, I know I pick on you about that, but man, we got to figure something out. But I want to ask you, and again, Kyle Bukauskas is coming up in about 20 minutes here on location. What's the biggest reason from your lens as to why the Leafs are up 3-0 in this series?
I just think the grit. I just think defending and going hard to the net. I think that has changed their perspective of the way they play. And I think now you look at the core four, right? We've always talked about the core four. Now I want to extend that out to like Matthew Nyes. Like, he has been a big difference maker. I think the way he uses his body. And you look at that last game, it was a great stat right before Austin Matthews won the faceoffs, how they dominated the faceoff dot. Getting possession off draws, whatever zone it is so important. I think that has been a swing factor in this game and in this series. And the difference is, I think, just timely saves by Anthony Stolarz, right? You look at that game 2 where Dylan Cousins walks right down on a ladies tees, and he makes a huge glove save. Those are like impactful moments in a game. And I think that is the factor of, and I know it got a lot of press, like the Craig Berube telling Mark Savard just to keep it cool. But that is like a great example of what's going on in this dressing room, right? Is Craig Berube's not letting them get too high, not letting them get too low. We've been through this all year. We're grinding towards something important. And I think that is where you're really seeing dividends right now, Nick.
Man, we need a Savvy cam. I don't know if you caught it again. Benoit's winner. Savvy was losing his mind. Mark Savard, we're talking about, used to work with him over at Sportsnet. But Berube's calm, cool, and collected. And I think your breakdown is really, really good, because that's been my sort of read on things too. I just think they're playing like a cohesive unit. Like, how often every playoff run, it's about the core four, but now they got help. The new guys have been exceptional. I didn't bring this up the other night, but I thought Oliver Ekman-Larsson was phenomenal in Game 3. His gap control, there's a couple where it's like, oh, the guy's burning past him, and he just knows what he's doing. Tim Stützle, I think, was the player. Then they're getting the goaltending. Stoley's been fantastic. He's owned Dylan Cousins in general in this series, made some big-time stops in Game 3 as well. The depth guys have been there. They're getting scoring from the blue line. Morgan Rielly's getting points. And you got Matthews in the mix. When the Leafs are doing that, they come at you in so many different levels. It's so hard to beat them. But I know the margin for error is razor thin. Like, the Ottawa perspective, and what else do they have there to hang on right now? They're down 3-0 in this series. Oh, we're so close. But, man, how many years have we been saying that in Leafs Nation? We're right there. I don't know if you caught that quote yesterday. I believe it was Jake Sanderson saying we're right there. That's what John Tavares said last year about this Maple Leafs team after they were ousted in 7 games. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so close right now. I think that gets exhausting for people hearing that. They don't want to be close anymore. They want to push through. And right now, this is a great example of, being able to close this series out today would be huge, just for rest, for wear and tear, for being smart. Because of outside of that core 4, core 5, we've talked about, everybody is buying in, right? And that's what you're seeing. Even the extra rest for Tanev and McCabe and guys that are going to play big minutes against big players. It's going to be important in the stretch run. And what I like about this is now you've seen Anthony Stolarz. He's played 3 games straight. He's won 11 straight games, Nick. That's crazy. Insane. He's dialed in. You can get him some rest, and he's used to playing on rest. So I think just managing that and practice time and where you're at mentally, I think becomes down to the communication of, the sports science team and the goalie coach and how they're feeling, because these are some veteran guys. Just keep them churning away, playing games. And I think this is a dangerous, dangerous group right now.
Putz, think about how many great goaltenders have played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anthony Stolarz, knock on wood. I don't even know why I'm doing that. I'm really confident in this game. He wins tonight. He sets a franchise record for a win streak by a goalie. He tied it the other night, 11 in a row. The numbers out of this world. And I know regular season, but it's carried over to the playoffs, man. 11-0-0, 1.53 and 9.44, 3 shutouts. I don't even think you did that when you're 11 and probably the best goalie in your league by far.
No, yeah, that's insane. Those are really, really good numbers. And one thing I did have in the NHL is I did 8 straight. And it's funny, you get into this like flow state where when you're playing well and things are going well, everything is just easy. So the best thing right now that they have set up for them is the playoffs, and you're not worried about your other goalie. You're not worried about Spot and Joseph Wall to start right now. You're worried about Anthony Stolarz, his rest, his management. And I know there's always that like cloud over him a bit in the sense that everyone thinks like, well, he's never done this before, right? But there's Jordan Binnington had never done it before. Cam Ward had never done it before. There's so many goalies that like came in, yes, different ages, but had never been the guy and like carried the mail during the playoffs. The best part about playoffs is practice is irrelevant at this point, right? So you're just literally, he's playing, then it's a day off, it's maintenance, it's getting ready. And then whether it's going on the ice for 5 or 10 minutes to get a little bit of hands, get his tracking, staying sharp. And now visual cues off the ice. We have VR headsets you can practice to keep your eyes sharp. You have like so many different tools to use where you can physically rest your body. So when it gets to game time, you're primed and ready to go. And playing a game every second night, it's not going to have that big of wear and tear on him, in my opinion.
And the best part about Stolarz, like, he's not a dick. He's a good dude, man. Very down to earth. Like, we had him on Leafs One Take last summer. Of course, he played with Rosie in Philadelphia Flyers organization. Really down to earth. Happy to be here. Not as quirky, I would say, as other goalies, but he has his quirks and just really, really confident but humble in the way he conducts himself. And it's just been such a crazy story. I don't know if you caught this earlier in the week. We had Eddie Belfour on the show on Monday, and Rosie asked him about, Dave Pagnotta was the host on Monday. He pretty much asked him something to the effect of like, hey, if Ridley Gregg came crashing into you, what you have done. And obviously the answer was like blockered him right away in the face. And then we see game 2. And we see that little fracas, the altercation there with Stoli and Ridley Gregg. What'd you feel about that as a former goalie?
Eddie probably had a nice little buzz on from a few.
I was texting with him for that. He loved it.
He had a few whiskeys and he was probably smiling, loving it. And it's old school hockey, and I love it. And again, the whole Ridley Gregg like shooting the puck at him and everything that's gone on, man. I would let this guy sleep. Like he seems to feed off of it. If I'm playing against Anthony Stolarz, I'm like, this guy honestly feeds off this energy and it makes him play well. And we've heard it all year. How many times have we heard players say this year, oh, Anthony Stolarz just talks the whole game. I've never played with a goalie that talks as much. That's how he stays in the game. That's how he stays focused. And if you're trying to be quiet, something I dealt with in my careers is I would play and I would be myself and have so much fun, and I was just relaxed and I was at my best. And then all of a sudden a big game would come along. This is when I was younger and junior and working my way up. And then I'd get so tense all day. I'd be like, I have to play good. I have to play good. And then I started to learn like this has a bad effect on me. And then as you mature and as you gain experience, you learn what works for you. And what works for Anthony Stolarz is you can't control if you're going to get 40 shots. You can't control if you're going to get 15 shots. But what you can control is your output and your energy towards your teammates and how you manage it. And that helps you stay in and out of focus. And the best way to be focused for a full hockey game, anyone who's a sports psychologist or been around the game, is you have to go in and out of focus. You can't maintain dialed in focus for 2.5 hours. I think Anthony Stolarz, he's having a hell of a lot of fun right now. And this is how he dials himself in for games.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Again, producer Vic said he'll take his tarp off on After Dark tonight if we get to 16K subs by the end of this show. Yeah,
I'll let my wife fill you in for this one. She's gonna.
Well, dude, our numbers are gonna skyrocket if producer Vic just appears on air. Like his F-bomb to 60 ratio is out of this world. I think brings a better product to your screen, more authenticity, by the way. So at the Leafs Nation 401. Where you can really help us out by hitting that subscribe button right now. Hit that like button while you're at it. I'm still trying to break down this whole Nick Cousins thing. I know it's a slap on the wrist for him. Just a couple pennies short of $2,100 fine, but $25K to the Ottawa Senators. And again, grew up in a different era, different vintage. These guys are former teammates. They won a Stanley Cup together. What was your read on that yesterday?
Like, even if they weren't just being buddies messing around, like, it's
how often did that happen to you? We'll say
so
that.
much, like, so often. You don't know how many times. I remember I played with Mike Ribeiro. A beauty. He was an awesome guy. He wasn't, he struggled with some stuff off the ice, but always a great teammate, great person to me. And then I remember playing against him. I remember skating during warmups and getting hit in the ass with pucks like 5 times. Every time I would do a loop, he'd just zing one at me and hit me. And I could go on and on about the stuff that guys would do to me when I was trying to start. And it's part of the game. It's part of I used to love when guys were creative to try to mess with me, right? Like, or you'd skate by the bench, they'd be like, "You suck, Hutton," or "Squirt me with water," or do something. You're like, come up with something better. Like, I want something original. I always remember Steve Ott being like in my kitchen every 2 cents. And that's part of the game. So I feel like I get the NHL trying to nip it in the butt and not make it into a big issue. But that being said, 25 G's, man, that's no joke. Like, are we going to watch warmups every single day? I don't know. I don't get it.
We've lost the plot though. Like, and then, talking to people around the arena today, I watched the Habs game last night and there's a fight on the bench after the whistle, and we're getting pissed off about a former teammates playing tummy sticks at center ice prior to a playoff game. Like, come on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. And that's what people want, right? This is like the part of the sport. This is the part of the stuff.
I know.
After the whistles, and I get you want to play between the whistles, you want it to be a good hockey, but these are the storylines that build fan bases and make things better. Like, we literally just left the Four Nations Cup. What was the biggest talking point? The fights. And we're saying we don't want fighting. We want to just put a good product. This is clearly what people want. They want backstory. They want things to happen. So I get the NHL. Maybe the NHL sends a message to them in this sense, but I don't think 25 G's is the way to go about it. This stuff's going to happen whether you find guys or you don't. This is part of the game.
My question is, who's the nut job who has this job of watching warmups to make sure there's no extracurriculars in warmups? Like, there's got to be somebody. I don't even know people actually watch the warmups. I've never watched warmups ever. Not even on Amazon Prime this season.
Sometimes when I was in warmups as the backup, I didn't watch warmups.
I know.
Somewhere else, I was just checking out the crowd. I remember Zach Bogosian. We were playing in New Jersey, and he was trying to kill a guy across the blue. Like, that's what you want. This is like, then that builds hype for the game. This is the stuff that you want. There's not enough of that in our game, and I think when it happens, all the tree huggers and everyone who's worried about it is like, oh, this shouldn't happen. But then all of a sudden it just draws so much more attention and people love it and they buy more into this. Now there's going to be a storyline tonight, like what's going to happen to Nick Cousins.
Yeah, I know. There's not going to be a response. Nobody gives a shit. But I genuinely felt bad for the Ottawa Senators. I'm like, what are we doing here, man, in 2025? Lastly, before we get you out of here, the officiating, I haven't been crazy about it. Can you guess how many power plays each team has after 3 games? Don't look at your rundown, please.
No, I don't know. Not a lot, though. It hasn't
9 each after 6 for the Maple Leafs in game 1. Explain that to me. I thought the officiating in game 3 was dog shit.
I know. I do. I've always struggled with playoff officiating because of the sense of like players create a certain standard of play where, you have success, you play all season, and it's like, this is the way we play. Then all of a sudden, all those rules go out the window and they let everything go. And there's so much more infractions and interference and hooking. And I'd like to see a little more consistency across that board. I don't rock the boat too much, but I think this is something that needs to change across the board.
Huts, it's been a blast doing this last 30 minutes with you. You got a prediction before I let you go here?
Oh, I got Leafs in 4, baby. Get the Brooms out. I like it. I think again, we're looking at like I think an empty netter tonight, maybe 4-2.
Nick Crowley on scene here wanted me to bring in a broom. I couldn't get to that level. I'm really, really superstitious. I'll let this game
real
play
cocky.
out, man. Yeah, it's very cocky, and Leafs fans should not be cocky. I watched the Montreal Canadiens series. Holy shit. But anyways, Huts, excellent job, bud. We'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Nicky.
There you have it, Carter Hutton at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's time now for our great interview on today's podcast, brought to you by the Crispy Hot Take of the Day, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 Portable Glass Air Fryer.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
It is an all-in-one system and includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes. In the 6-cup container, Max Crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp. With the Ninja Crispy, you can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the show description, and stay tuned for your chance to win a free Ninja Crispy. We got a special guest, first of the week, on location, my main man, Kyle Bukauskas from Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada. And Kyle, I was going to spend just 15 minutes talking about your hair. Can we do that?
I'm here to do anything you would like to talk about here, Nick.
How you been? We were talking a bit on the way in. Like, I don't do much traveling, but it wears away on you. And that's you all season long, isn't it? Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, now the irony is that, I mean, I live in the West End here, right? So I'm not used to having home games in the playoffs. So this has been a bit of an adjustment. But yeah, certainly, like every year, I always say, like, you get to the end and everyone's so fried, and none of us on the television side have played a shift. So it's like, for the players, how do they do it every other night over the course of this run? So you've got to manage your energy. You got to take your optional skates when you can. You got to know when you got to push and when to back off. But you know what, it's just, and then it's a strange existence when you get to this stage here and the 3-0 and the possibility of a sweep. It kind of changes the mindset a little bit, but preparation is always the same.
You know what's wild about you? I think players elevate at different times of the year. It could be preseason; you're always on. Like I know it's kind of flattering to you, but I think you have excelled and evolved so quickly in your career. What's this been like, this role for you?
Yeah, it's been a really incredible learning opportunity, Nick. Like, thank you for the kind words that I just never even, I guess, anticipated going in. Like, when I first started to pursue this career, like, I always thought of being on the desk doing highlights at night. Like, that's what I wanted to really go after. And then I just kind of fell into the role of working rinkside. So, I had a lot of really good, important mentors around me, whether it was fellow commentators on the production side, like working with Shirley Najak for a long time. He's now the exec at CBC with the Olympics. But that was like a critical 5 years that we spent together, and just completely open your eyes to the different ways to approach this role, and just different opportunities and ways to tell stories and tackle the job in a unique way, and to force yourself to try to get a little bit better, whether it's, Saturday to Saturday over the course of a year. So yeah, it can wear on you. And again, it's more so just the mentally, as like with the challenge sometimes with creating, it's one thing to prep and to go, okay, I've got my notes and I understand, I feel comfortable about the stats and kind of where things are at with whatever team or game or series that you're covering. But the creative side, like, that's where it can be a bit of a grind.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is, like, preparation. Obviously people hear us on air and that's what we do, but no, we're up at 3 a.m. watching hockey, 2 a.m. And so the preparation standpoint, I think, is unique when you look at your career. I see you around all the time. You're in the scrums, you're interviewing guys, you're doing the 32 Thoughts podcast as well. Like, you're everywhere. What's your game day routine look like, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, usually, you try to get up at a decent time. I've learned over the years, it's become a bit of a joke on the pod, but like, how important, like, getting a good breakfast and, like, just for like establishing, a good baseline for having energy over the course of the day. And, usually when I'm on the road, I'll go for a walk outside after breakfast, and then, get to the rink. And whether it's, usually there's some kind of availability, whether a team's doing a full skate or not in the morning, got to be there for that. And, try to talk to the necessary people that's kind of on your list for the day, and going over things with our production crew here. Jeff Giordat's leading things in the truck for us this series, and just going over the plan for that night. And then over the course of the afternoon, I'm finalizing my notes and gathering my thoughts and putting it all together. And we usually get back, for a 7:00 game between 4:15, 4:30-ish. And then you're just kind of in that mode of getting yourself ready for when the pregame show starts, and whatever you got to do is, sometimes there's pre-taped interviews, things like that. And then the game happens. And now with the new role of doing the podcast too, that's up to 3 days a week. Don't have one to record here tonight, but over the first 3 games of the series, those were recording nights for us. So after done at the game and everything post-game, go and tackle that as well. So they're full days.
I would imagine. Are you a game day napper? Any naps? Are you a napper in general?
No.
I
I
love
used
my
to
naps,
do it.
dude.
Oh, trust me. I
Yeah.
wish. I find I don't have time for it. You
Yeah.
know, like the mind kind of gets going of like, well, I should probably do this now, and then I should do this. So I just the day runs out of hours and minutes to squeeze that in as much as I would love to.
You're from out west, right? Like, so
Yeah.
why is Ottawa home now?
Well, it's just the way it
Works out.
kind of
geography?
unfolded. Yeah. Like I mean, I when I first got hired at Sportsnet, I lived in Toronto for a year. They moved me here because they had brought Sean McKenzie back to Toronto. They wanted someone in the Ottawa bureau. Lived in Montreal for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like we had the regional rights there for a period of time, and then moved back to Ottawa. Just for reasons for myself and my now wife, it just made more sense to be here. So we've been here ever since.
I know we did a podcast. You came on Unmuzzled, RIP, my old podcast,
Yeah.
Unmuzzled. But we sort of broke down your career. Like, where did they find you? Like, it's kind of unique to hear people's stories, how they became where they are. You know?
Yeah. So I went to school in Calgary, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, their broadcasting program there. And so one of the ladies that it's funny, like it was total right place, right time. She was filling in for someone that was just happened to be on maternity leave for that year. It was my last year of schooling, and she was in charge of comms at the athletic department, which also included finding people to do. They would webcast a lot of the varsity games, and they would pull from people in our program that were interested in doing that stuff to staff those. So I did as much of that as possible. That's how her and I got to know each other, and Lindsay, and so her dad at the time was the news director at Sportsnet. I of course didn't know that, but like reading week happens, she went back home to visit, and I guess the question comes up, how are things going over there? She mentioned my name to her dad and said, well, have him send a tape of some corn, and I was a few months away from graduating. So you were putting that stuff together just to start applying places. So at that time I thought, well, it would be the coolest thing ever just to get some feedback from somebody in that position of what he's seeing, what he likes, doesn't like, all that sort of stuff. And then it parlayed. So Mike English saw it, gave me some feedback, which it was incredibly valuable. And then he flipped my demo tape onto Scott Moore, who at the time was the president of broadcasting at Rogers. And he reached out and said, we want to bring you out to Toronto for an interview and audition. And that's where, everything changed there. And I came to Toronto, like I'd never been to the city before. And it's like, talk about fish out of water. Met with some people there, did an interview and auditioned in their studios, and then just waited over the summer to see what was going to happen. And for some reason, they decided to give a shot to a kid that had, virtually no experience. I was so young at the time, but so grateful that they gave me a chance.
Talk about seizing an opportunity, though. And like, here we are in 2025, and you're doing the podcast, you're on Hockey Night in Canada. Like, do you have to pinch yourself sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the irony of it all, Nick, because I remember I flew into Toronto, and that night before, meeting people at the Sportsnet offices for the first time, I was staying at it was the Marriott Hotel at the time nearby, and just I remember thinking, like, man, like this could be it. Like, if this doesn't go well, if you don't make the most of this opportunity that's come out of nowhere, like who knows if there's ever going to be another one. So like, don't let this slip, So I remember really thinking that. And of course, at the time, I had no idea that Rogers was on the cusp of signing a 12-year rights deal with the National Hockey League. Like all that stuff.
Right place, right time. A lot
later.
of it.
Exactly. So I mean, you've got to count on some good fortune along the way, but also it's you talked about preparation early on, like just being ready for when those moments come. That all leads into hopefully some good bounces along the way too.
You never know what could transpire this year. If there's a Love Guru 2, who's playing Kyle Bukauskas in it? They're not going to make Love Guru 2.
I love the first one.
You did.
I think it's hilarious. But I know why it was not well received. But it's one of those ones where, like, I remember me and some buddies in high school, like, it was such a quotable movie just because of how outlandish it was and the whole plot of it all. And of course, love Mike Myers and all that. So I have no idea. I think it's probably a good thing that they don't make a second. You're right.
Yeah.
But man, I would happily watch the first one again anytime.
Watching that movie, it was like Mike Myers got high one day and he's like, you know what? I'm going to make a movie where the Leafs win the Stanley Cup. I'm going to insert myself in this movie. And that's exactly what happened, I felt.
Yes. I mean, it's funny now as the years have gone on, you look back at some of the cameos in that film too, but it's unbelievable. Because remember, people were like, oh my God, like this could end his career, right? Like he looked,
It
he
it
seemed
effectively
untouchable
did,
from,
Kyle.
from Austin Powers, but
Yeah.
no, he still crops up, right? Like
Yeah.
he was at the Leaf game there not too long ago. And
Who's your
anyways.
most favorite interview you've done, like on Hockey Night in Canada or anywhere pod too?
Ooh,
Do you have a top 3?
interesting one. Yeah, I mean, player wise, we did one with Tyler Sagan years ago, and it was just kind of one of those ones where you weren't maybe expecting anything too much from it, and
I
he was
love those.
incredibly
Yeah.
engaging, and just felt that wow, I was really enjoying the conversation. I mean, you know, we've had a chance to have Charles Barkley on
Yeah.
a couple of times, and even beyond just like that getting traction, because I mean it's Charles Barkley, of course, but he was just always so kind and generous with his time. Like that was just really cool, and you just never thought that you'd be in that situation
I know.
to talk to him. And then also a few years ago, this wasn't you know, on television or record or anything, but I just over the phone, I spoke with Paul Correa, who was my like idol growing up. So that was like a career highlight, just to be able to talk to him. And it was Pettersson was in his rookie year in Vancouver, and I was just there was some kind of connections in how he was playing then at the time, how he shot the puck that was similar to Correa a little bit. I know playing style wise, they're two completely different guys, but that was the kind of genesis of why I reached out. And yeah, he was incredibly gracious, and it was like such a cool thing to like, oh my God, I'm talking to him all these years later.
What % would you give your hair being a reason why you're here today doing what you do?
Well, it's funny. Like when I first started, I mean, no one looked twice or thought twice about my head of hair. So no, but there's a guy here in Ottawa when I first moved here. So Jason York, I remember asking him because he was working with us at the time. I said, you know, I remember saying to him, I need to find somewhere to get a haircut. And he goes, well, go see my guy. Go see Dino. I've known him for a long time. And that changed everything. Like I joke with him. I said, you've created the monster. But anyway, it's like if that's the thing that people are gonna ask me about, like it could be far, far worse. So I'll never take an issue.
You ever been approached for like deals like shampoo or nothing? Really?
No. So it can't be that great.
Because I don't know. I was like Googling you getting prepped for this interview yesterday, and you got so many like model pic. I don't know what's going on. Is that from back in the day?
No. I think I've done
like you on a stool just chilling. Like what's going on there?
Yeah. Well, there's a publication here in Ottawa, Faces Magazine, and they've been kind enough to reach out a couple times to do some stuff with them, but which was a really neat experience. But other than that, no. So it's a good reminder that like I appreciate those that want to ask about it, but I'm not sure if it's worth the hype.
Is it pretty simple? Like how long you taken before like a game day?
I streamlined it. Yeah. Streamlined it. I used to take a lot more time, Nick, but yeah, I mean, you know, you gotta dry it properly, and then it's 2 separate products, especially on game nights, to make sure it's locked into place. Like you don't have to be worrying about it throughout the night.
True.
And then away we go.
Immaculate. We should probably talk about the Battle of Ontario.
Sure.
Now. Just I had to get that out of the way. I know we've been trying to get you on for a while here on the pod. What's been your breakdown? Like, what's the biggest reason, in your opinion, the Leafs are up 3-0 in this series?
I think like it's not even the big moments, Nick. Like they have, you think of how well the power play's been, but it's just the accumulation of a lot of the little things too for Toronto. Like face-offs has been a big one. And their ability, I know everyone looks at, well, look at how many shots Ottawa's getting, but the blocks, like just the shot suppression too. Like I don't think we've seen a Toronto blue line like 1 through 6 that is built this way, where you see in Berube, like the ice time is very, very even. Like you're not trying to protect a guy because you don't trust him. That's not the case anymore. And just how long and rangy a lot of them are. Like I can think of 3 examples. Like my position here at the Canadian Tire Center is just right in the Zamboni area at one end of the rink. Like 3 examples in game 3 of Stützle like flying down the wing. Like he's wound it up. He's full tilt coming down, and it's Ekman Larsson playing him. Doesn't over aggressive or anything like that. And as soon as he goes to shoot or something, it's just like, boom,
I just talked
like
about that earlier,
stick.
the gap control. I thought OEL was great in game 3.
Right. And it was like nothing flashy, but it was just like, boom, stick was there. And it was deflected shot, missed shot, decides to pull up. And just little things like that that's added up over the course of this series. And I mean, the top guys are getting their touches too on the power play. But I just think, you know, overall, like 1 through 20, Toronto's got just much more from everybody. They're able to rely on everybody. And I think we're not used to seeing this, of course, at this time of year for Toronto, but they look every bit the more experienced group.
Certainly. And obviously a bit of a different perspective. I'm just some random podcaster who sits in my condo and podcasts where you're on location all the time. Do you sense a difference in sort of the mentality? Like I've been talking a lot this year, and what I've noticed being around the room a bit is the professionalism, how driven they are, how focused they are. But like the preparation is what's blown me away throughout the season for this team. But do you notice a difference behind the scenes with these guys?
I think like they have, as time has gone on, taken on the personality of their head coach. I think like if you watch Craig Berube's media on an off day, post game after a win, post game after a loss, from like training camp all the way through to this morning, it's pretty much the same tone the whole way.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of this, and you can only imagine it's a very same type of tone he has internally behind closed doors. Now, certainly there's times where emotions get higher, and we've seen it on the bench. We've seen him get vocal at practice at times. But overall, like I remember Chris Tanev saying, like when he talks to you before the game, like with that pregame message, 2 or 3 points he wants to hammer home. He's not, kind of losing himself and going from one thing and over to the other. It's very straightforward. And that's just kind of how this team has played this year. Like it hasn't been overly flashy at times. It hasn't blown you out of the water. You're not seeing a guy, challenge for 70 goals in a season. But, certainly now when they made it a priority to win the division, like it's been a different team here. And as time goes on, we'll see how sustainable it all is. If they do end up getting through Ottawa, like, they're going to have their hands full, whether it's Tampa or Florida in the next round. But I think that's been the impressive thing for me this year, is just like the influence that the head coaches had, and how, the players have kind of carried on the impact and just the presence that he carries himself with.
And I think to that point, the buy-ins, what's been astonishing to see sort of this season, and everybody pulling their weight. We talk a lot about the additions, the OELs, the Ekman, or the Tanevs, the Lorenzes, Stolarz, the list goes on and on. Even the Simone Benoit story is incredible. Like, what are the chances we see a montage tonight with Benoit and Bobby Orr in it? I know it's coming. It's got to be coming.
Even Corey Cross, at least, right? Like
interviewed him yesterday.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I talked to him yesterday too,
Great,
and I saw you guys had him.
Yeah,
like I was happy for him. I'd never spoken to him before, but it was neat that comes back to the surface again, because like Elliot was joking on the pod, like if you're asked to name the Leaf defensemen that have scored in overtime in the playoffs, Corey Cross was probably one of the first names,
only,
right?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's like some really big names over the course of Leaf history, but you always come back to Corey Cross because of just the nature that it happened there. So it's just like, and again, going back to how you're able to rely on everybody, or Craig Berube has been on the back end. Like Benoit's elevated, and then the other 5 guys have been, relatively just good, proven defensemen that are all kind of pulling their weight by and large over the course of this series so far. And it's created a situation where, okay, we're able to have more shot attempts go Ottawa's way, more shots on goal. But when you look at the ones of actual quality, because of how they're handling things in front of Anthony Stolarz, it's been a perfect combination between them and great goaltending.
Well, it's really felt like they've controlled and dictated the series, which is weird to say because they've had 2 games go to overtime, but not once have I felt like Ottawa's taken it to Toronto, maybe a second period of game 2, but I felt like the Leafs have been in control. I think patience has been a big thing I've noticed with this team throughout this season. They really haven't deviated from their game plan and their mindset. And we did talk about it a lot in the regular season. How would that factor in? How would that, draw into the Stanley Cup playoffs? But it feels like it's working, where they're playing their brand, their style that they know, and that's why they're finding results here. But the margin for error is so razor thin. Like I talked about it earlier, 1 for 21 in the power play against Boston last year. You score a couple more, narratives may be different. They go to round 2, right?
For sure. And actually having that conversation with John Tavares before the series, where it's like, you look at the fact that all these years they've got 1 playoff series win to show for it, but he's like, you got to remind yourself of like how razor thin the margins were in a lot of those series, like maybe save for the Panthers one in 23, of course. But where just certain moments did not go their way, or maybe they got too tight. They didn't handle those moments the right way, and they're on the wrong side of it. And now you're seeing it all go the other way for Toronto in this series. Like, I'm curious to see what we're going to get out of Ottawa here tonight. Like naturally, whenever you get to this point, it's 3-0. A lot of assumptions start being made, but like I thought, like Travis Green during his media this morning, he was kind of like low energy in terms of how he was talking, and then at one point he gets asked a question, and it was kind of like almost had to remind himself, like, no, like we've got to convey an idea that like we're still in this, like we've just whatever it's going to happen here tonight, it's because we're going down swinging. You can tell like there was kind of a lift of like a bit more of a push in terms of his persona and the energy that he tried to bring there. I mean, it's got to be, you can only imagine that situation, especially where 2 of the games go in overtime. But I do remember, I mean, completely different group, different era, but that Hamburglar run, playing Montreal in the playoffs, they were also down 3-0 and also lost games 2 and 3 in overtime. They ended up pushing that to 6 when I don't think many saw coming. And if not for an early whistle on one play there in game 6, that could have gone the distance. So you just never know.
Yeah, from the Leafs perspective, you just don't give them hope. You don't want to give them hope.
Sure.
Killer instinct is a big phrase we've used covering the Maple Leafs the last couple of years, and you just got to close them out. Like, I'm a big proponent in having a quick series if you can. If you're going to go on a lengthy run, and hope Tampa and Florida go the distance here. Maybe Tampa wakes up a bit after, the Hagel suspension and all that. But I think it's actually important that Maple Leafs find a way, because you can't forget too, there's a 2-day layoff now if there's a game 5 on Tuesday, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So be one less day of rest on the other side. And I'm totally with you. You think of the Panthers last year, they finished Tampa Bay off in 5, I think, in the first round, and just saved them a little bit. I don't think they went 6-6 and then, of course, 7 in the final, but just having that extra time early on in the playoffs, like, you can't tell me that didn't have some sort of factor later on.
How cool has it been to cover the Battle of Ontario? Like, do you have memories? I know you're from out west, but do you have memories of the original battles back in the day?
I do, yeah. And it's been a really neat, obviously living here for the last number of years, just learning a little bit more, like the specifics of how each year unfolded and each round, each series unfolded. So to see it here in person all these years later, because you think like there's a whole generation of fans that have no emotional ties to that. Like, they've seen the highlights on YouTube or whatever, but they weren't around to actually live it. So it's neat that they're getting a taste of this. You don't expect going in that it's going to be 3-0 one way here coming into game 4, but it's been really neat. Like, we sat down with a number of ex-Sens, Travis Green as well,
awesome.
Before the series. And like, we put together just our features group did of just kind of a reflection. Like, Gary Roberts was talked about it. Darcy Tucker, we sat down with Alfredson and Chris Phillips and Chris Neal. It's just neat to talk about. Unfortunately, here in Ottawa, it's like an interesting one where it's like, yeah, those are thrilling games, but you lost every year. But it was great to kind of go down memory lane a little bit this way. And just, it's been too long since the latest chapter.
I know in broadcasting, like, I know I cover the Leafs, but for a long time I really didn't care. Now it's a bit different because I'm a Toronto-centric guy and I love the Leafs and I cover them. But did you have a favorite team growing up?
I did. I said, like, Paul Kariya was my favorite player, so I loved Anaheim.
That's
like,
true.
it was just kind of that. I grew up with the Mighty Duck movies, so you had that connection.
Favorite
to
one,
the logo.
D1, D2, D3?
2.
Yeah,
I love the whole storyline.
The junior Goodwill games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Iceland of all teams, right? Like, Canada wasn't even a factor in the tournament. Wolf the Dentist dance.
Well, it's funny. I was making a comment to Zach, who's watching the show right now, does a great job on After Dark yesterday, that I was going to meet up with a couple people from Sens Twitter. And I'm like, it's comparable to having ice cream with the Iceland girl, right? Like,
right.
Bombay did that.
Exactly.
And the guys couldn't believe that. So I didn't do it.
Yes. Oh, you didn't.
No,
you couldn't do it. I'm
no.
glad that you're referencing Bombay and D2. Yeah, that's right.
I have a D2 poster in my condo, man.
Okay. Is it like the movie poster with the bubble gum?
Yeah.
In Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes,
yeah. God, it's like such a good look. Back when movie posters were like worth something, like, I don't know, do they even do that anymore?
I got it I don't even know what it's called, like laminated and all that. Like, it looks good, man. Plaqued. It looks good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, hang on to that one.
Anyways, Kyle, you're the best. Have a great broadcast tonight. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Kyle Bukauskas, folks, in living color. The hair is just as great. The chatting you up like crazy in here as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me.
There you have it, Kyle Bukauskas. Want to get in on the action for Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365. They got you from game props, player props, totals, and the money line. You can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, the Stanley Cup champions, and much, much more. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connexontario.ca. Again, thank you to Kyle Bukauskas for dropping by. I know he's a busy man. And also Nick Caroli live here on location for making sure nobody really saw the transition there, which I think is a phenomenal job. You're such a professional. I still think you're a joke for frisking the bouncer last night, but a story for off air. Folks, hope you enjoyed the show today. Before we wrap, I want to give my picks and thank you to Carter Hutton for coming in and co-hosting the first half here. But I like Matthews, ATG, gave me an Austin Matthews anytime goal. And again, I was at the morning skate, very driven, very vocal, very focused team. I think the Maple Leafs bring their brooms tonight and they sweep away the Ottawa Senators. To me, and again, maybe this is just nostalgia weighing in, but there's a lot of comparisons I can make to 0-1. We had Corey Cross on. They win that game in OT. They swept that series, folks. So I envision a sweep. The Toronto Maple Leafs will win this series. Game 4, the Battle of Ontario. So give me the Leafs money line and give me Austin Matthews to score again. And maybe after this game, we'll get set for round 2. So we're going to leave it at that. Again, thank you to the Ottawa Senators. Can't thank them enough for their hospitality. I know they're the rival, but they've been so great to us here on location at Canadian Tire Center. So thank you to Ian Mendez and Aaron Campbell for setting it up. Nick Crowley behind the scenes, Almo Delich behind the scenes. Rosie was in the mix for a couple of our shows. Carter Hutton, producer Vic, Zach Phillips. Really was a team effort. But again, I'm hoping this is just the beginning of this journey for the Toronto Maple Leafs, up 3-0 here in the Battle of Ontario. So that's going to do it at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Again, if we get to 16K, you're going to see tarps off for producer Vic, and he just texted me as well. He's going to get in as many F-bombs as possible. He's just going to make it bomb F-bombs in the post-game show. So get us to 16K, and you'll get sort of that activity coming up tonight in the Leafs Nation After Dark. Check that out with Zach Phillips following the game. Again, at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Enjoy the game, folks. We'll be back on Monday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Roseau. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.